And all morning long, we've been following this developing situation happening right now on UC San Diego's campus.
In fact, we have team coverage on campus right now. Kelly Hessedal is live near the tense showdown between demonstrators and police. And Alex Lai is live nearby showing us the aftermath of the pro-Palestinian student encampment.
But first, we do want to start with Regina Yorita. Regina, tell us where you are and what you're seeing there.
Yeah, guys, I can tell you that just moments ago, tensions were growing here in this area. We just lost a group right now. They're probably heading towards where Kelly's at. But let me walk you through what we're looking at right now. These are just some of the supporters that were here. They walked towards where that group was forming earlier this morning towards the Student Health and Wellness Center. But I want to pull up what we were looking at just seconds ago, because I'm telling you, supporters were chanting, "Let them go." You could immediately see students clashing with deputies. There was pushing and shouting between the two groups. I do know deputies have told students to stay back and to not get close to law enforcement. At one point, students started blocking the sheriff's department's prisoner buses. But to be clear, the people inside the bus were CHP officers who were leaving campus. But you can hear protesters chanting, "Let them go." And that's really because students who refused to leave the encampment earlier this morning were taken into custody. They're upset as far as what's going to happen with those students. Law enforcement had given out several warnings to clear out the encampment. So you can see several students who were handcuffed or zip tied and escorted to the Price Center. They were then loaded onto white vans. We don't have a number of how many students were taken into custody. There were also several CHP officers wearing riot gear who told supporters that they could peacefully protest once the encampment had been cleared out. Now, I did hear from deputies on scene that the students taken into custody were taken to the Central Jail in downtown. In the next half hour, we'll get video of the Central Jail, who is actually getting boarded up. We do know the exterior of that is getting boarded up, so we'll get you that in the next half hour. We're going to see where that crew headed, but I'm going to send things over to Kelly because I know maybe that's where the crew is at the moment.
Yeah, you're right. Regina, we've been following the protesters around campus for the last several minutes. Take a look. This is the scene right now. The crowd continues to grow, and I can tell you the tension does as well. As you mentioned, yes, several students have been arrested. We just got an update from the UC San Diego police reporting 64 arrests in the dismantling of the encampment. 40 were students and 24 were unaffiliated, or their status is unknown at this time. So the focus right now on law enforcement, on those students who were taken into custody. The protesters are not happy about that. They say that these students should not have been taken into custody. They say that they were peacefully protesting when this all happened. So you can see tensions rising. Several of the protesters remained outside the student union building and were banging on the glass because they could see some of those students inside who had been detained. So this is kind of what we've been seeing all morning long. Again, the crowd continues to build, continues to grow as the morning has gone on. You see some Palestine flags flying over there, but we've been following them now all morning long, and things have definitely elevated quite a bit. You can see them gathering over here. You've got deputies, sheriff's deputies, and you've got a lot of protesters just chanting, and they're frustrated. They say they're angry. They say that they have been peaceful since this protest started here on campus last week. Over the weekend, we know things did get a little bit more elevated with a counter-protest taking place. And this morning, early this morning, that is when police moved in to dismantle that encampment. That is when things really started to escalate. So you see that there, protesters right there at the barrier. It looks like they're putting up some plastic barriers. The police are perhaps trying to keep people out of this particular building, which forgive me, I don't know exactly which building this is right now. But you see that whole lot of protesters there standing with police right in front of them, cheering with their signs, which some of the signs, we definitely don't want to put those on television. But you can see they've got the riot gear on, and a lot of the protesters have been saying, you know, why are you wearing riot gear? We're just students, we're just protesting, we've been peaceful. What is this? Why are you doing this? And you can see just several officers, the amount of security that is out here. But here is a live look at the scene of UC San Diego campus after police moved into that encampment early this morning and made several arrests. We'll send it back to you.
Kelly, I understand that, again, a lot is going on right now. Have you seen any other students be taken into custody from this new group that seems to be, again, protesting the other protesters being taken into custody?
I personally have not witnessed that, but it's certainly possible. I know it does kind of seem like things die down and then they kind of ratchet up again. But I can tell you this is probably the most tense that I have felt it so far this morning. At one point, the protests were blocking Voight Drive, and there was kind of this standoff between CHP officers and some of the protesters. They were kind of surrounding these two sheriff's deputies' buses that we were told some of those protesters were on to be transported downtown. Cheering right now, and that's kind of what happens is sometimes the officers leave, the crowd cheers, and then things calm down a bit. But it's hard for me to see from this vantage point what they're cheering about exactly. But yeah, I mean, you can feel the tension in the air. You can definitely feel the frustration from the protesters out there.
So as the officers leave or move back, some of the protesters are cheering, is what Kelly had seen prior. So at this point, I know Kelly's standing right there where the protesters are. Possibly there are officers at the top of the stairs. We saw them there earlier. Kelly, I'm curious too right now. I know they're starting to chant a little bit more. What are they saying now?
It's hard to hear exactly what they're saying, you guys, but you know, what you're seeing unfold right now is kind of what the university had been fearing all week long last week. You know, they allowed the encampment to happen. They said as long as everything stayed peaceful, they were going to be okay with it for now. But then over the weekend, the encampment grew to triple its size. I know that some officers tried to get into the encampment, or possibly a fire marshal or somebody like that, and they were blocked out. And I think things started to kind of take a turn after that point. So early this morning, again, that encampment dismantled, and you're kind of seeing the result right now unfolding live on television.
And you mentioned, Kelly, too, the latest update from UCSD police. 64 arrests were made. They confirmed that just before we started our newscast here. 64 arrests, people taken away by buses to a different location. And these protesters are upset about that. Many of them saying they want the right to protest. They don't know why police are there on their campus right now, and they're upset at the presence of law enforcement on UC's campus.
And I believe the breakdown was that UCSD was able to identify 40 of the 64 being students, 24 still unidentified or unaffiliated with the university. And of course, it's hard to be able to determine that in a large crowd like this, but I got to imagine that this is a very large group of protesters, much larger than what we saw crop up shortly after that encampment had been dispersed. Kelly, are you able to tell us what part of campus you're on, what that building is that you're, just to kind of give us a frame of reference here?
I think we're near the kind of the food hall, the mess hall. We're not too far from that. I mean, we've been kind of in the center of campus, and I feel like that's where we are right now. And forgive me, you guys, I don't know exactly which building this is. One thing I did want to add to what you were saying is that the school did say already that the students who have been detained will be placed under immediate interim suspension. So what exactly that's going to mean down the road for them, we know graduation is a month away. I don't know if any of these students are seniors, but they have finals coming up in just a couple of weeks. You see the barricades going inside. Oh, okay, they closed the door, so now they're throwing water. It appears a water bottle was thrown, you know, and they're banging on the glass over here. But this is always kind of the concern, is when big crowds gather like this, you know, police aren't sure what's going to happen. You kind of don't know what to expect. So I know that, you know, there have been in talks between the university and with law enforcement now for several days, as we've all seen. Some of these protests erupt across the country at different schools. Certainly no one wants any violence or anything like that. But you can see those officers inside the glass. I think Eric's close to the glass right now. You can see them moving through here.
Right.
And the protesters are moving this barricade here to this side.
Yeah, they're walking into the Price Center. We just saw the sign on the building there. We know the Price Center was the same place where many of those who were detained this morning were also taken, gathered there, where they were then loaded into those buses.
You can see, yeah, go ahead, Kelly.
Oh, No, I'm just saying that these barriers are coming in right now. These plastic barriers. They're moving a bunch of signs. It looks like they're all crowding on this area, so I'm not exactly sure. I do know I can tell you that some of the protesters have been saying that, reminding each other to remain peaceful because they did not want, to antagonize the police. I mean, I do feel like things have ratcheted up quite a bit, but yeah, you can definitely feel the anger, you can feel the frustration, you can feel the tension here on campus. So we're going to step a ways back here for our own safety reasons. Looks like people are starting to move. So
Yeah,
this is kind of what it's been like, all morning long, just following them.
And since you've been out there this morning, I know a lot of the chanting you were saying, they were repeating over and over, peaceful protests. Why are you here, referring to law enforcement in their riot gear? Are they still saying that, peaceful protests, at least are some of them?
I'm sorry, Ned, I can't hear you. It's so loud
We
out
understand.
there.
No, that's okay.
Forgive me.
As long as you're getting out to safety, certainly that's what matters. It looks like things are calming down a bit now that you've stepped away from the Price Center.
Yes, it does look like some people are starting to move away and probably go to the other side of the building. I can see them down the street here. Here, Eric, do you want to go this direction?
Okay, so they're starting to follow the movement, and just to reiterate what Kelly was saying, that the mood and atmosphere definitely different from when we last checked in earlier this morning when this secondary demonstration began. So we are going to continue to check in to see exactly what this group does next, because again, while chants of peaceful protest are being called out, it does seem that the mood has definitely changed here. Yeah. So we have Kelly Hessedal, who is following that group. Again, this all began because of an encampment that had been set up for several days. In fact, we know now that that encampment has since been cleaned up. Right,
that encampment cleared this morning. So let's send it over now to Alex Lai to show us the aftermath. Alex, you've been there since it began this morning with some of the detaining of the protesters. What can you tell us? What's going on now?
Yeah, Netta, so moving away from that active protest, actually where these encampments were in this big grass area behind me, now completely cleared, as you said, and it was really just hours ago that students were sleeping in tents, camping there for the 6th day in a row. So take a look at what some of the protesters left behind as their campsite was cleaned up earlier this morning. Now, some of these students left the camp when officers started cleaning the area. The rest were taken into custody and removed from the encampment. Now, shortly after that, crews came in and began cleaning up the tents. This was a really quick cleanup. Tons of tents were taken down, and the area was cleaned in about 30 minutes. All of these items were loaded into trucks and taken off the site. An officer told us the biohazard team was out surveying area. The university environmental health and safety members were out there too. They told me they were just monitoring the area. And then the people taking down the tents told me that they're with the school and are just cleaning up. They said all of the items are being loaded onto trucks and they will be taken to their facility. So we're not sure what is going to happen to the items after that. But like I said, this was once all of the protesters were removed from the area. All of their tents and belongings were left there. So I want to focus on what exactly the protesters had with them at the encampments. The biggest items were tents that the students were staying inside of. There was also a lot of bottled water and packaged food. There was a designated medic tent in the back. It had things including alcohol wipes, bandages, and cleaning supplies. We also saw chairs, blankets, backpacks, and bags, and a large amount of chalk, markers, and paint used to make these protest signs. These pro-Palestinian signs were posted around the encampment as well as outside of them, and messages in solidarity with Palestinians written on the sidewalk with chalk. And so back out here live, I just want to show it is clearly cleaned out right now. There are actually sprinklers going off and the whole area is blocked off. There's a sign that says landscape area under renovation. And I was told that it is being blocked off for now. They don't know, how long it's going to be blocked off. No one really gave me a clear explanation why, but it does say that there is a landscape area under renovation. So this is quite a different scene than we saw really just hours ago when we got here around 6 in the morning. It was filled with protesters still staying in those tents and, dozens of different officers, CHP, UC San Diego police, and also county sheriffs, all there clearing out this encampment. So it's really quite a different scene. I'll pass it back to you guys.
All right.